Hey 49ers, we're here with comedian Pete Lee, who will be performing at tonight's Comedy at the Beach. Thank you so much, sir, for stopping by and putting on a show for us.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. This is really fun.
Yeah.
This is great. What a beautiful campus you have.
It's really beautiful. There's just a lot of stairs.
Yeah, a ton of, yeah. You guys, this is like, your mascot should just be like nice calves.
Yeah. Have you seen the statue out there of the 49er guy? He's got some great calves.
He's got some great calves?
Great calves.
I did see your pyramid when I drove onto campus, and I was like, what kind of university is this? Are they going to have healing crystals there? Or what's happening here?
All right. So why don't we go back in time and we explore the origins of Pete Lee?
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
All right.
What made you want to break into comedy?
Probably to start out with insecurity, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm being honest, there's a saying in comedy that nobody needs to get up in front of strangers and get their laughter and approval if you don't have some level of insecurity, which we all have. So if you're insecure, you're safe. You're amongst friends. But yeah, I was in college at the University of Minnesota. I was on the programming board there, and I would bring comedians to the school. And my friends started telling me, "Hey, you're funny. You should try to do stand-up." And my roommate was an author. Like, he actually wrote books, and he, nowadays everybody has a beard. Like, he had a beard when people were like, "That guy's weird. He has a beard." Yeah. And he would just sit at dinner, and he'd kind of crack up to himself, and he would always be jotting things down. And I didn't know what he was doing, and it turns out he was writing down the funny things that I was saying whenever I would say it in a notebook. That was his notebook that he brought to dinner every night in the cafeteria. And at the end of the year, he gave me the notebook, and he's like, "Here, you've got to do comedy."
That is such a sweet gift.
It was amazing. And then I figured he did all that work. From that point on, anytime I had a funny thought or when I would say something funny, I'd write it down. And that's really what stand-up is it's when you see someone's act that's an hour long, it's just a collection of little snippets that they've said over time.
Yeah.
That, one goes with another, and then, maybe 5 of those are in a row, and then that's a bit.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I lucked out having a roommate that did that for me.
Would it look like sets already like written out for you, or?
Yeah, he actually went back and organized some of it and was like, "Hey, this is a topic. This is because." At the time, now I've been writing for a long time, and I understand how to organize it, but his brain was just way smarter than mine at that. So,
that is really cool.
Yeah, it was a gift, and then he dropped out of school, and he's like a hippie that lives in the woods now.
Oh,
but
wow.
I reached out to his mom, I was like, "Can I thank Tim?" I remember I was going on Comedy Central, I was having a half-hour special, and I was like, I want to fly Tim in for this so that he can see it. And she goes, "Oh, he's off the grid. He's off the grid. You'll never get him there."
He's like living in some commune or something.
Yeah. So thank you, Tim. If somehow you've made it to technology and you're on the grid now, thank you for starting my career.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Were there comedians that you looked up to? Like, did you have any heroes, any idols that maybe you saw them and you were like, "Man, I want to do what they do"?
Yeah, growing up, I always looked at like Eddie Murphy and Seinfeld and Ellen. Ellen's actually a huge influence of mine, and she's one of the legends that I've never met. It's kind of weird in comedy. At this point in my career, I'll go down to the Comedy Cellar and I can just sit at a table with Chappelle and Louis C.K.
Wow.
And then, we'll talk about whatever's going on, or we might talk about comedy, or, I was going through a breakup recently, and then all the comedians were ripping on me, and then, legends are chiming in on your breakup and making it hilarious. So yeah, it's I grew up idolizing, I guess, probably the people who we would put on the Mount Rushmore of comedy. Yeah. And now, sort of the new Mount Rushmore of like Louis and Chappelle and Dave Attell, and like now I get to be friends with them.
That sounds so cool.
It's nuts.
Yeah. Does it ever get a little surreal? Like, I'm at a table with Louis C.K. Oh, there's Dave Chappelle. Dave Attell, what you doing here? Like, do you ever is it an out-of-body experience for you sometimes?
Yeah, it especially was at first. But like Amy Schumer, her and I started out in New York together, so we'd be getting dollar pizza. and we were struggling together. And now, you know, I'll be driving down the highway in Kansas and I see a billboard for her movie. And
Wow.
so in a way it's surreal, but in another way it's kind of comforting that, you know, I can be out on the road and the road can be kind of lonely, and then I can turn on the TV and then my friends are there.
Nice.
And so it's, I guess it makes it more comforting than strange to me. But yeah, what a weird life, right?
As a comedian, you perform a lot, and sometimes you have good audiences, and then sometimes you have bad audiences. Are there any memorable audience moments that are of note that you have never forgotten about?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the further that you get along in comedy, your version of bombing, usually the audience doesn't even know about it.
Yeah.
Like you can have a tough show where you might have had to think faster than you wanted to, or maybe it was more work than fun. Usually those are the crowds where I walk off stage now and I'm like, oh God, I had to work so hard for it. But the crowd still laughs because you have a body of work that can pretty much make any crowd laugh. But man, back when I first started, I had some stinkers, you know, like
Yeah.
I had some crowds. At one point, I did a high school lock-in in North Dakota for $150. It cost me $200 in gas just to get there and back from where I lived. But I took this gig anyway, and then I said something wrong. I don't even know exactly what it was, but they had given the students jacks and super balls. You know those old toys where you'd throw the ball down and then pick up the jacks.
Yeah.
They'd given, and so they had pockets full of these things, and I said the wrong thing, and they just started throwing jacks and super balls at me, and so there's like a hailstorm of metal and rubber bouncing balls.
Oh my
God! Yeah, it was like a weird Saving Private Ryan moment, you know, where there's shrapnel being blown at me, and then the principal came up and took my microphone, and she called him. She goes, "Children. Children, if you do not behave, you will not graduate, and graduation is tomorrow." And then I did 20 more minutes to silence because they weren't going to laugh and they weren't going to heckle and they weren't going to throw anything. And just littered around me were Jackson Super Balls. And I would say that was probably my worst show ever. But now I made it through that phase, and everybody bombs, you know, like, you know, Seinfeld, Chappelle, like all those guys bombed like crazy for a period of time in their life because you can't be original and you can't hone your craft unless you're taking risks, and to take risks you gotta bomb sometimes.
Yeah. That's what I've heard from a lot of comedians, that they experience a good number of years where they're just bad.
Yeah.
Like, how was there ever a time period for you, and what was that experience like when you went up on stage, you didn't bomb, and you were like, oh, I guess I'm a comedian now. Did that ever happen to you? Like a moment of clarity where you're like,
well,
I don't suck anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you do well early on too. I mean, my first time on stage, I killed.
Okay.
And I remember leaving, and other comedians would talk about bombing, and I had a 1 week from the time that I first went on stage to the second time.
Yeah.
And people would be like, dude, oh my God, I bombed. And I'd be like, yeah, I don't do that.
I can't relate. Like,
that doesn't happen to me. I don't bomb per se.
Yeah.
And then the second time I went up, I bombed so hard, and I knew exactly what they were talking about. And it was heart-wrenching because then it's another week. You know how they say the athletes just don't feel right until they win again?
Yeah.
Comedy's an art form. It's not sports, but you do feel like you lost. And that's why, there will be comedians who go up and have a rough show, and like big name comedians who will go up and have a show at a theater that maybe doesn't satisfy them. And then, they're getting paid tens of thousands of dollars to do that show. And then after that show, they'll go for free to the comedy club and drop in and do 15 minutes just because they want to have a set where they won by the end of the night.
Yeah.
It's almost an addiction, like a gambling addiction. You just love that feeling. You love that feeling of being accepted, and I think that we all walk around all day. I think the thing that we're really scared of in life is being judged.
Yeah.
And we judge ourselves, and we're kind of mean to ourselves, and then we're always worried, like, is that person being as mean to me as I am to me?
Yeah.
You know, but when you're on stage and the whole crowd is laughing and the whole room loves you, for just a second, you know, or for 45 minutes or an hour or 15 minutes, you don't feel judged anymore.
Yeah.
And you can't possibly judge yourself in your own brain because it's going so well. So it's like a vacation from judgment when you're killing.
Yeah.
Hopefully I didn't get too deep there, but
No,
it's
no.
just, it's, or maybe that wasn't deep at all, and the people watching are gonna go, see, I'm judging myself. See, judgment, judgment.
No, I could say from experience, like I've tried doing open mic nights
Yeah.
in the past, and they didn't fare so well for me. I bombed a couple times.
So you know.
So I know, and I understand that feeling where all like, you go and you suck, but the next time you do it, you don't suck as much, and you just want to be like, I want to win. I want to get a little better and feel all right about what I did
Yeah.
on stage.
And progress is a win.
Yeah.
You know, even, yeah, if you got 3 laughs this time and you get 7 laughs the next time, that's progress, and that's a win. You know, you don't have to destroy the room every time you go up.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah.
What would you say is your favorite part about doing comedy? Like, what do you get at it that makes it worth it to you?
My favorite part about doing comedy is that sensation of being in a room and making everyone laugh, and I guess just being surrounded by the best energy. Because think about how many times in our day that we're in traffic and you're surrounded by bad energy, or maybe you're having a good day and then you call your girlfriend and she's having a bad day and just bad energy is being thrown at you.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, in a way, comedy's all about energy. You walk into a room where they're having all sorts of crazy days, usually bad, and then somehow one person reverses the energy of 300 people, and then they all get on the same page. And you all have fun for however long that lasts. So I think that's my favorite part about it, is just being in a room with good energy for a second.
That sounds great. If you had anything to say to any young comedian starting up,
Yeah.
just like anything, just off the cuff, or just basic knowledge of what they need to do in order to be successful, what would that be?
All right. Should I talk to the camera? All right. Young comedian starting out. Quit. No, I'm kidding. No, don't quit. If you're a real comedian, you know that that's not even an option. But if I had to give you some advice starting out, I guess it would just be write a ton, and never stop trying to figure out what your point of view is in life and what your voice is. And people will tell you all the time, like, you got to figure out your point of view, and you don't even know how to do that. Generally, your point of view comes from whatever your Achilles heel is in life, whatever the thing that's wrong with you, you can actually judo flip that, and that's actually your strength, because that's how you see the world. So the thing that you thought was the worst part about you is actually the thing in comedy that's going to make you really successful. So embrace whatever's weird or bad or different about you and talk about it, and talk about how you see the world through that lens. And then just write like crazy, write all the time, and you'll be really successful. So, yeah.
Alrighty.
Yeah, boom. The more you know.
The more you know. Thank you so much, Mr. Peatley.
Thank you for having me.
All right, 49ers, that's it.
That's it, 49ers. That's all you get.